Good morning. I'm Dan DeRosa with 19 News Now, coming to you from our digital desk. We're going to be taking you live to the Cleveland City Council. This is the Public Safety Committee hearing that is taking place. That is Councilman Mike Polensek. He is the head of the Public Safety Committee, of course. You see Chief Drummond taking a seat at the table there. Safety has been an issue, a growing concern with the entire city of Cleveland. Not just the West 6th mass shooting in recent weeks, but also carjackings, robberies that are on the rise. Let's take you live now to see what the city is suggesting for a solution. We don't just report on the problems. We want to hear about the city's solutions. Let's take you live now to the committee meeting. And if they're playing music like they are, that means they have turned off the microphones for the time being. We're going to wait for them to get those back up and going. This could be just a housekeeping matter, but they had just begun the meeting. Again, crime in the city of Cleveland has been on the rise. They're going to be discussing the increase in violence in the city of Cleveland, including the rash of stolen cars, increase in shootings and homicides, and again, what they want to see as the game plan moving forward. We know that we're going to have the safety director, Kerry Howard, will be in attendance. He has taken a lot of heat recently. We have also the command staff will be there. We've already seen Chief Drummond take a seat at the table. We will also hear from the Chief of Youth and Family Success, Sonia Pryor-Jones. That's a newly created position. Then we have the Director of Community Relations and Senior Advisor, Angela D. Woodson. Polensek chairs this committee. He's also invited, and whether they choose to attend, we'll see, invited representatives from the state, including Ben B. Suver. He is the Chief of Staff to the Ohio Department of Public Safety. There have been questions about whether or not the Ohio State Patrol should be moving into downtown Cleveland and helping with enforcement. We know that that was a plan that was announced a few weeks ago. Is there an update to that? The Chief of Staff of the Ohio Department of Public Safety, of course, oversees public law enforcement divisions, including the Ohio State Highway Patrol. We have a quote from Councilman Polensek saying, "I'm interested in hearing a plan from city officials and also find out how the state of Ohio can help get the city and this violent crime wave under control." So that is a council individual saying that. Looks like the meeting is underway. And we're still just getting music. I'm wondering if they have forgotten to turn on their microphones. We will wait here for a second because this looks like this is the Division of Police going through their plan. And we are unfortunately getting just music. Folks, give us just a minute here. We're going to try and see if we can get a message down there to the committee meeting. Okay, it looks like we're still hearing the house music because not everybody is seated at the table. It looked like the Cleveland Division of Police was already going through their presentation, but there we see Public Safety Director Kerry Howard. That's the gentleman kind of near the door next to the woman in the green dress. He is now making his way to the table, perhaps a little late for this meeting. The city has been fairly on time recently with the Bibb administration taking over, but here we see Public Safety Director Kerry Howard arriving just a little bit late to this meeting, which is why we're still just hearing house music, but it looks like we're getting at least closer. Again, if you're just joining us, this is a normal Public Safety Committee meeting held at 10 a.m. On this particular date. The head of this committee is Councilman Mike Polensek, where if you watched the most recent news conference held by the Cuyahoga County prosecutor, Mayor Justin Bibb was in attendance. That was in regards to the teenagers who savagely beat that man at a gas station and then opened fire several rounds at cars that were driving by that gas station. Polensek was the most vocal about his outrage and the violence in this city, saying that something has to be done. He called them domestic terrorists. He said that that was an act of terrorism and that people in his ward, for the ward that he serves, and it looks like we might now be underway.
Do we have a quorum? Thank you, Madam Clerk. And again, as I indicated earlier, anyone from the public wishing to testify, please see the clerk, and there's a sheet you must sign up and utilize to be recognized. The rules of engagement today are all members we're going to start out with 10 minutes each asking questions, and then again, as members have additional questions, they will be put back on the list because I'm sure that there are a lot of issues or questions members might have. I want to thank all in attendance. I want to thank my colleagues. I know everyone has had an extremely busy summer with community engagement, with issues taking place in your communities. I know from my discussions with the council president and members, this has been maybe one of the busiest summers that we've had in my memory anyway, with the things taking place in our neighborhoods. And would someone please close the doors in the back? Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Chief. So again, I want to thank all my colleagues. I want to thank members of the administration who are here. So, but before I get into the actual engagement here, because there's someone here who wanted to come to the table to address the body. Last Friday, I attended a funeral of Pierre Delante Davis Jr., 17-year-old young man who was shot and killed in a, best to describe as a gun battle on the northeast side of the city. And I happen to know his great-grandfather on a personal level. We've been longtime friends. Sometimes we've walked our dogs together in the park. And I can't say enough good things about Grandpa. Just an outstanding gentleman, community leader. But standing there on Friday next to that coffin, looking at another 17-year-old young man who was gunned down, I asked the question, what could this young man have become? What were his possibilities? And again, to my colleagues, I've stood beside too many coffins in my time, and I guess I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired of seeing the violence that is impacting our neighborhood. So at this time, because he's asked to address the body, I'm going to ask John Harrison to come to the table, the great-grandfather of Pierre. John, please come to the table. And the microphone is here for you. It's already on the screen. It's on. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's been a long time since I've been here. And I'm ready to go home, too. Let me very briefly thank you very much for continuing working with us in Ward 8. I don't think people understand some of the kinds of things we've been trying to do, some of the futuristic plans that you have for Ward 8 with support of council. I will be very, very brief. I won't be like my dad, who's a preacher, that says, and in closing, and 30 minutes later, start to close, okay? So let me just share with you what's on my mind. I've had a number of people talk to me about, oh, your grandson got killed. That's not what I'm here for. Let me tell you why I'm here. I went to sleep. In 2014, Congresswoman Marsha Fudge charged me with putting together the SAC. SAC was Student Advisory Council, the only one that Congress was looking at. There are 21 municipal districts, education districts, in Congressional District 11. And so we got 2 people across the Congressional District. Took them down to Nottingham Library, and they were seniors and they were juniors. Closed the door and asked all adults to leave and asked one question: who do you trust? And out of 360 people, it came back nobody. So when you hear me say I slept, I think I had done my duty. But there was no structure for following up when 360 young people say nobody. So this has nothing to do with looking at what others do. It has something to do with what I stand for and what my standards are and what I believe that can happen to my city and which I know could happen to my city about the quality of life. I will share with you, because I'm a very candid person, everybody obeyed the rules that day. One young lady held her hand up with 2 of her friends next to her. Never forget her. She said, I need to say something. And Congresswoman Fudge said, what is it? She said, I was raped in my family. Nobody believes me. That's why I have my 2 friends here. Did you turn it in? No, I was afraid. I say that for the simple reason that our children don't believe we can protect them. We don't know in our schools whether we have security to hold them in or security to keep them out. That's not fair to the children that we're supposed to be serving. They honestly do not believe that we can protect them. I'm a country boy. I had no doubt in my mind that my uncles, my dad, my family would protect me. So when I tell you that I slept 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 on. Now maybe some of you are wide awake, but some of you are asleep. You sleep because there's not one kid in this room, and you're having a conversation about juvenile crime. You sleep because we don't have a nucleus of people that we can protect as they tell us what their stories really are. I'm not pointing a finger at anybody. I'm pointing a finger at myself. I went to sleep for a while. But Stephanie, as they say down south, let sleeping dogs lie. It's time to wake up. Our children do not believe us. We have no believability. I don't know if the transcript is still available for these young people, but the stories that I heard that day, I got in my car, went back to the office, and I slept. As they were crying out, help me help myself. So I didn't come down here to do anything other than tell you, no matter what you may do, wake up. Talk to the people that this affects, and you know exactly who they are. You know exactly who they are. When you're walking the streets of your wards, you know exactly who they are. When you know where the dope house is, you know exactly who they are. Okay? Wake up and have a conversation with these folks, because everybody from Cleveland ain't bad. Okay? And putting a label on these kids like this when they're afraid to even move, especially at night, is not fair to them. Okay? Yeah, I'm here for my grandson because I went to sleep. I ain't sleep now. Okay? Whatever you think that I can do, I will do. I have to tell you one thing that's negative. That same day, we had 360 people, lunch and all. There was not one incident. They're worried about Collingwood getting with Get Academy and all of that. Nothing happened, people. You didn't read about it in the Plain Dealer, you didn't see it on the news. They were honest and to the point. Before I could get back to my office, I got a nasty phone call. What are you talking about? One of our local elected officials had a camera in the lapel and put some of those kids' dialogue on the cotton picking website. So all that believability that we have established went out the door because somebody wanted to be a star. That's not fair to these kids. The mama called me, and it was the child that said, I've been raped. If you're going to be believable, walk the walk and talk the talk. That's all I ask.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. And on behalf of the council, again, I wish to express our deepest sympathy on the loss of Pierre and the impact it had on your family. And I appreciate your engagement in our community, not just today, but over the years, what you've done in the various capacities that you've held in working for Congresspeople, NASA, and now in your retirement. But you're really not retired from what I can see. You're still heavily engaged. So again, thank you for coming to the table. I appreciate it. God
Thank
bless
you
you.
for the opportunity. I do appreciate it.
God bless you, my
Thank
friend. Thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank again my colleagues for being here today, all my colleagues. I want to thank members of the administration, the director, and I'm going to read an opening statement, and then we will proceed with the director, Director Kerry Howard. I want to thank again the members of the administration, Director Howard, staff members of Cleveland Department of Public Safety, the Chief of Police, Wayne Drummond, Chief of Staff for the Ohio State Department of Public Safety, Ben Suver, I hope I pronounced that right, Suver, who is here on behalf of the governor, Sonia Pryor-Jones, Chief of Youth and Family Success, Angela Shute-Woodson, Director of Community Relations, and anyone who is else here in attendance. Today, we're hoping to hear what the administration's plan of action is to address the rise in crime and gun-related violence, which is gripping our city's neighborhoods, including downtown. I don't have to tell any of my colleagues, for they are dealing with this every day. The severity of the crime and violence in their neighborhoods, from the Lake to Mount Pleasant to Lee Harvard, Slavic Village, and Old Brooklyn, from Collinwood west to Edgewater, Jefferson, and West Park and beyond, we've all experienced crime and a total disregard for public health and safety. Last month alone, it has been unbelievable in the 5th District on the northeast side. In my 13 terms in public office, I've never experienced a level of violence and disregard for the health and welfare of our citizens. Open gun battles, fleets of stolen cars, young men waving guns, beatings of innocent individuals, parks being taken over, and unfortunately the injury and death of young teenage men and women, which has become the new norm, unfortunately, in our city. Personally speaking, I was born in Glenville and raised on Collinwood. It was the United Nations of old school gangsters in the day. However, I had to worry about my mother, who raised us as a single parent, my sisters, my little brother walking our streets, going to a park, or getting on the #1 St. Clair bus. It never entered my mind about being a potential victim of crime or act of violence. I would get on my bike and ride down St. Clair to my grandparents' house in Glenville and never give a second thought. When I was attending Collinwood High School, I never gave a second thought about being a victim of crime as well. If this job taught me anything, it's to listen not only to my residents, but to the residents citywide. That's why I am hearing today, along with my colleagues, from our constituents, which is disturbing to all of us, and this is what we're hearing from our constituents. I'm afraid to sit on my front porch. I cannot sleep at night because of the neighbors from hell are blasting their music, partying all night, and shoot out fireworks and guns. I'm afraid to go to a local store or gas station for fear of being robbed or carjacked. I'm afraid to go into church on Sunday or Bible study on Wednesday night for fear of being a victim of some young men stealing my car. My adult children won't let my grandkids come over for fear that something could happen to them. I've had to buy a gun because I don't feel safe in my neighborhood or my home. Why aren't the police enforcing the nighttime curfew laws? Why are the parents not being held accountable for their children? Why aren't the nuisance laws being enforced? I hope you get the point. This is being heard from one neighborhood to another across the city. Ladies and gentlemen, this is no way to live. In fact, it's not living, it's just existing. For all of us who are in attendance today, the council has given the administration everything they've requested from us during the budget process and forward. All of you have in your possession a handout. In the handout, you will see what legislation council has passed, and I want to thank staff for putting this together. And this has been passed since January 2022 to date, totaling over $145 million to deal with public safety issues and requests, not counting the city general fund budget dollar amount. Council's passed millions of dollars for violence prevention and reduction initiatives, and yet crime continues to increase substantially. Council allocated funds to hire an additional 180 police officers this year alone, and yet only a fraction of those have been hired to date. At this point, we are under 1923 levels in the division of police. No one alive today in this city has ever experienced this depletion in our safety forces. Council has waited 16 months, my brothers and sisters, for a massive hiring and recruitment plan to backfill the needed positions within CPD. And as of today, almost at the end of summer season, we're still waiting for that initiative to be launched. So at this point, I hope you can understand the frustration level of members of City Council with regard to crime and violence in their neighborhoods. I wanted to reiterate to all that under the charter and rules of council, Cleveland City Council, including the council president, Blaine Griffin, cannot hire, fire, deploy, nor administer. That's clearly under the domain of Mayor Bibb, his chiefs, his directors, and command staff. However, it is the members of council who are being besieged with complaints and the reality of crime, of violence in their respective communities. What I have learned repeatedly, and what a former chief of police reinforced to me just recently, is that law enforcement starts with traffic enforcement. All of us sitting here today know that there are certain communities and suburbs that you do not speed through because of police patrols, visibility, and enforcement. They set the tone as you enter their municipalities. That is why I'm so appreciative today that the Chief of Staff of the State of Ohio Department of Public Safety is here with us today, and I want to thank the Governor DeWine, for his direct response to my plea for help in the city with traffic enforcement and patrols from OHB, excuse me. That is where public safety begins, in the street with visibility. Finally, let me say, as I've said on numerous occasions, so there's nothing new here, The President of Cleveland City Council, Blaine Griffin, and all members of the Cleveland City Council are here to help and work with Mayor Bibb, Safety Director Howard, Chief of Police Wayne Drummond, along with our law enforcement partners to take back our streets and neighborhoods. However, we cannot do it alone. We need real partners, beginning with our citizens and constituents. The old saying goes, if you see something, say something. Stand up and be counted. Become a stakeholder on your street and in your neighborhood. This is to all parents and guardians out there. Be responsible for your children, especially teenage children. To see children as young as 12 years old running the streets in the middle of the night raises the obvious questions. Where in the hell are the parents and guardians? The larger question is, why aren't the parents and guardians being held responsible for contributing to the delinquency of a minor? We've all had to reset our priorities in this county. We have to reset our priorities in this county. For as an elderly black constituent in Glenville said to me yesterday when I was putting this presentation together, when complaining about the chaos on her street on Maple Avenue in East Glenville, she cannot get excited about spending millions for downtown lakefront development when her grandkids can't even come out and play in her front yard for fear of being victimized. So with that, we hope to hear again from the Safety Director, Chief Drummond, and members of the administration what the game plan is moving forward. At this time, I'm going to ask the Safety Director to open up, and I'm also going to ask Ben, would you please come to the table as well, representing the Governor's Office and the Ohio Department of Public Safety. Thank you. Director?
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
First, I'd like to give my condolences to Mr. Harrison and his family. Our hearts break for him and for every family that loses someone to this senseless gun violence that we see in this city. And thank you for convening this. I'll ask for some latitude. I do have the opening remarks that addresses much of what we're going to discuss today.
Okay. I can't hear.
Is that better? Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
I got you.
Director.
Thank you.
And as soon as we're through your opening remarks, I'm going to call upon the representative governor.
Thank you. Through the chair, public safety, we say it often, public safety is reactive. Public safety is reactive to significant failures in things like education, economic development, mental health, and we're seeing the result of those failures on our streets at an alarming rate. This year, we've seen rise in gun-related violence that gives us all alarm. The demand for police response is extremely high, and this is a critical issue for jurisdictions across the country, and Cleveland is not immune. Like jurisdictions across the country, recruitment and retention also continues to be challenging. Members of the community and members of this body have asked about our plan, and I assure you that the Department of Public Safety Division of Police has never been without a plan. While our plans to meet violence, to meet violent crime, has been fluid to adjust to what we're seeing on the streets, we have always had a plan. Most recently, we have put forth the RISE initiative. The administration rolled out the RISE initiative almost 3 weeks ago, and it's an extremely extensive plan, one of the most extensive plans I think that anyone has ever reviewed.
Director, just that we
Sure.
also, the RISE, everybody has a copy of RISE on their
Right.
desk. Thank you.
The plan is a portfolio that includes strategic investments in law enforcement, strengthening regional partnerships, deploying aggressive enforcement tactics, and incorporating technology and data to improve public safety. The administration is utilizing this plan as a framework when making decisions every single day, with the hope, through this dedicated and all-encompassing approach, to decrease heightened crime levels to make our residents and visitors safer. RISE includes a combination of new innovative strategies integrated with multiple efforts that have already been underway. In short, we're looking to invest in our officers by increasing police pay, working together with union leadership, examining recruitment and retention incentives, examining recruitment issues and developing a plan to address them, and establishing a neighborhood safety fund to address the root cause of violence before it occurs, which Chief Pryor-Jones will discuss later. Strengthening all of our partnerships. That means locally with the mayors and police chiefs from the suburbs, in our county, the state level, and working with the governor's office, all the way up to the federal levels, collaborating with the FBI, ATF, U.S. Marshals, and the U.S. Attorney's Office. These partnerships are very important to us. Mayor Bibb acted right after the shooting that happened on West 6th Street, and he called the governor. He called the governor to let him know of our situation, and we got a response. We're looking at aggressive enforcement through strategic violence reduction tactics, like targeting hotspots, expanding curfew enforcement, fast-tracking gun cases, warrant sweeps, and coordinated intelligence efforts to combat gang activity, drug crimes, and fugitive apprehension. Integrating technology and data into public safety efforts by hiring crime analysts, rolling out ShotSpot at all 5 districts, and expanding our camera sharing program, Safe Smart CLE. The city implemented Fusus, a cloud-based video sharing initiative which allows for public and private entities to share video feeds with the city. Video surveillance cameras, the city has integrated CAD, AVL, ShotSpotter, body-worn cameras, mobile phone live streams into Fusus, which provides first responders with one unified command tool. The city has worked with public and private partners to bring the video feeds from Steelyard Commons, Western Reserve Hospice, Langston Commons Apartments, RTA, Cleveland State University, and 33 CMSD schools to date. The city is currently working with the Flats, East Banks, and other businesses for expansion of the Fusus program. The city is currently providing the core device, which allows for video sharing for free to public and private partners who choose to be early adopters of the program. Last year, we increased pay by 11% for officers, the biggest jump in modern history, and we're not done yet. We announced the city's first ever public safety summit. We have made progress in those conversations with union leadership. We continue to engage with them in discussions, focusing on ways in which we can jointly improve retention, recruitment, and deployment. We look forward to this continued dialogue, the summit later this month. And then we contracted with the local marketing firm, and that has been signed. And they have begun moving forward towards the development of a strategy and campaign to help improve police recruitment and retention. This is in addition, this is part of the plan that was given to council ahead of budget hearings this year. The Division of Police, through Chief Drummond, has a great relationship with Ohio State Highway Patrol, which proved fruitful when they committed to offering their help earlier this summer through the end of this month. And Mayor Bibb contacted the governor again directly, which was a huge piece of securing that partnership. We have also seen a commitment this week from the Sheriff's Office, with retired Deputy Chief Pertel taking on the mantle of Coward County Sheriff, and his relationship with Chief Drummond. You're going to see increased sheriff involvement in keeping the city safe. There are many examples to cite, but a few today on the front end in terms of arrest and crime. We've just seen last week a dozen juveniles charged with violent crimes committed in Northeast neighborhoods. Responding officers showed no fear when going into the basement of a residence to make these arrests. Investigations remain ongoing to see if they're connected to these crimes. Now, that is an example of the RISE initiative. We saw a mass shooting in our largest entertainment district several weeks ago. There was a rapid response by the Division of Police. The sheriff's deputies arrived. Detectives worked quickly, and once again, with a great partnership with the U.S. Marshals and a private citizen, an arrest was made approximately 60 hours later. Our homicide clearance rate is above 70% for the past 3 years, which is significantly higher than most recent FBI stats, which show a national average of approximately 60%. And then in June, we saw a man who was sentenced to 376 years to prison. This individual was committing a violent rampage of carjackings and rape against multiple women. That's great detective work there. The city is committed to holding Kia and Hyundai accountable for their role in these levels of crime that we are seeing, because these are the cars that are being targeted. We filed a federal lawsuit against both their failure to install standard anti-theft technology, and that has contributed to a drastic increase in stolen vehicles we are seeing, many of which are used to commit other crimes throughout the city. Then we have the expansion of ShotSpot at all 5 districts in May, which is already led to 6 lives being saved, 25 guns being recovered, and 23 arrests at the time of the shooting alert. That's a rapid response, especially when citizens don't call. Expansion of Safe Smart CLE camera sharing program was announced early last month, and our efforts led to the number of residents registering their home cameras more than doubled and we now have over 150 involved. We have speed tables across 10 locations in our pilot program, which was launched last summer. Average speeds are down 7.8 miles per hour after installation. Over 77% of survey respondents indicated support for these speed tables across the city. Year-end traffic fatalities in Cleveland for 2022 was 45 compared to 74 in 2021. We are continuing the hiring process for 5 qualified analysts, 1 for each district, a critical tool for intelligent and critical policing. I want to make sure that this body is aware. The men and women of the Division of Police, we are short, we are being taxed, but these men and women are working very hard, and we give them a plan. Chief Drummond's leadership provides adjustments in that plan when necessary. This RISE initiative is not a plan proposed while there was no plan. It was a significant adjustment after significant and detailed conversation between myself, Chief Drummond, and the mayor and the community about what is needed to make this city safe. The RISE initiative just recently released, and the mayor, Councilman Joe Jones, said it yesterday. The mayor has been here 18 months. The innovative ideas, the changes that need to happen, this is an issue that experts will tell you was coming. It was compounded by COVID, and we are making the adjustments that are necessary to lead to increased police staffing and a reduction in crime. And you're going to continue to see developments on the street level as this plan continues to unfold. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Director, for your presentation. At this time, I'm going to call upon Benjamin Suher, who is here representing the Governor's Office, Department of Public Safety, Chief of Staff. And I had personally reached out to the Governor some time ago about the issue of getting the Ohio Highway Patrol in Cleveland, especially as it pertains to traffic enforcement and helping CPD, augment CPD services in the city of Cleveland. So again, I want to say welcome to the table, and the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Council, for having me here today. Our commitment to Cleveland is strong. The governor has spent his professional career looking at public safety and finding ways to improve public safety. In fact, of the ARPA dollars, over $250 million was through the support of the General Assembly of the state committed to this area. And the Department of Public Safety is that sort of outlet that executes that through the Ohio State Highway Patrol, through the Ohio Narcotics Intelligence Center, through the Office of Criminal Justice Services. The commitment through the governor, we have, since he came into office, there's about $23 million that have been invested in Cuyahoga County and the city of Cleveland through grant offerings, both ARPA and other state and federal grants. The State Highway Patrol has had a long history of supporting Cleveland Division of Police, but with Chief Drummond, we're even more closer together, working closer together. As the director said, there is an initiative that will continue where we surge in resources of the Ohio State Highway Patrol to include our aviation section, which I think when, Chair, to your point about traffic safety, we know many of these individuals that are carrying weapons and that are attempted to be stopped don't always stop. And one of the best ways we can protect the public to that person that we're looking into, as well as law enforcement, is to use our aviation assets and to stay above and allow law enforcement to back off and to pursue those individuals safely, find their destination, and then stop them and secure them in a way that does not affect public safety. So that, along with the Ohio Narcotics Intelligence Center, our analyst, it was started by the governor in 2019. We have crime analysts that are positioned in Independence, Ohio. We have 4 locations across the state, but one of them is in Independence. They work with agencies to include the Cleveland Division of Police currently, but the governor asked the General Assembly in this last budget to increase their dollars to support drug-related violence, and so we will be onboarding those staff, and those individuals are at the will of the Cleveland Division of Police when called upon. When the chief has asked us to get involved, when the director has asked us to involve, or we've had meetings, we've been there to support them, and their ask have generally been granted, and we think it's a great partnership that we have. We're committed to that. As you and the council and the chief and the mayor, the director see new initiatives, new ways that we can support you, we will take those under advisement and likely support them. This is a home rule state, and the governor believes that the best thing we can do at the state level is to listen to the local communities, because each community is different in what their needs are, and then evaluate what resources we have at the state to support local government.
And again, thank you for being. Do you have any indication as how many officers, units will be assigned to the city to really initiate this crackdown?
I don't have that in front of me, but we would be happy to provide you and the council of those numbers. But it is a number. There's obviously a number of posts in a district in this area that have troopers that already work this area. However, we bring in additional resources to include our specialty units, to include aviation. But I would say, it's 10s, 20s, 30s, depending on what the initiative is of that particular day.
Because all of us at our neighborhood meetings are hearing about how important traffic enforcement is, and the lack of traffic enforcement in our neighborhoods. And that's why we're all hoping that with the presence of the Ohio Highway Patrol, Cleveland police officers can be then freed up to do additional things in our neighborhoods. And your folks can concentrate on those traffic issues. And as you've indicated in the past, what we've seen is apprehension of outstanding warrants, contraband, guns, drugs, et cetera, in those vehicles that have been stopped by the OHP.
And just in the past years, we've taken hundreds of guns off the street through these initiatives with the Cleveland Division of Police. So it's been very successful.
Thank you. I would ask you to stay around if you can. The director has a presentation, and at some point we're going to call up to the table Sonia Pryor-Jones and Angela Woodson. So with your presentation, are you going to be able to touch upon the actual deployment numbers in our districts? Because that's the concern, that's the growing concern of visibility in our neighborhoods.
Understood, Chair. Chair, I know that Chief Drummond wanted to make some remarks.
Okay.
And Chief Drummond will also be able to address that deployment
Chief,
question.
go ahead.
Good morning, Chair.
Good morning.
Good morning, council members. I'd like to introduce my staff that's here as well and sitting in the back. We have Deputy Chief Sammy Morris. Deputy Chief Sammy Morris is...
Stand up, everybody, when you're called upon, so we can see him.
Deputy Chief Sammy Morris is in charge of field operations, solid districts, community relations, as well as the Bureau of Traffic. We also have Deputy Chief Annie Todd. She's the Chief of Staff. Also, newly appointed Deputy Chief Ali Pillow. Please stand. He's in charge of our Homeland Special Operations. It's basically all of our specialty units, homicide, SWAT, and so forth. We also have Deputy Chief Danny Fay. He's in charge of our administrative operations. That's our academy and others in the support sections. And we also have Commander Robert Tucker. He's in charge of the district that we're currently in, which is D3. Just want to identify them and recognize them and their hard work and dedication for the Division of Police and the citizens of our great community. Thanks, Chair and council members, for giving me the opportunity to say a few things before getting to the presentation. The men and women of the Division of Police are working tirelessly to keep our city safe. So I want to thank them. They work long hours, putting their lives on the line for what we can sometimes say is a thankless job. However, they still come to work day in and day out without fail to serve our community without complaint. For their dedication and hard work, I say thank you. The Cleveland community, the safety of the Cleveland community is my #1 priority. It's #1 priority for the Director of Public Safety, Kerry Howard, who's sitting to my right, and also the Mayor of this city, Justin Bibb. As was mentioned before, we do have a plan in place. We've had plans in place. We've been operating the plan and putting the plan in place, but the Mayor recently announced the RISE initiative, which is raising an investment in safety for everyone. And in that particular plan, which is in place and active, it's investing in our law enforcement officers, our police officers here in the city of Cleveland, and increasing their pay, increasing retention bonuses, things of that particular nature. I can't get into all the particulars because as we speak now, the city is in negotiation with the unions and so forth, so I can't get into all the particulars, but that's currently going on as we speak right now, has been going on. Part of that is negotiating with, obviously, with the unions to, again, work on the things that we're talking about, which is increasing the pay for our officers and our retention of the officers that we currently have. Part of the initiative, too, is aggressive enforcement. With aggressive enforcement, it includes our collaboration with our partners. Just a couple of Fridays ago, myself, Director Howard, Assistant Director Jakeem Adai, we met at the Strike Force building, which is here in our city in Old Brooklyn area, and we met with the vast majority of our partners. That's from the Ohio Highways Patrol, which is a tremendous partnership we have with them, we've had for many years. The FBI, ATF, DEA, Homeland Security, the U.S. Marshal Service, tremendous partnership with them, U.S. Attorney's Office, County Prosecutor's Office, and I'm probably leaving a few out as well. I do apologize. Ohio Investigative Unit, which falls under the Highway Patrol as well. We all met collaboratively, we talked, and I asked, and we asked for their continued collaboration, partnership, and one of the other asks from me was sustained enforcement. And what do I mean by that? We have details on a regular basis with our partners, but what I needed and what I asked and what I requested was to have sustained enforcement. That means that to continue to hit those hot spots, not a blanket approach, but to hit the hot spots on a sustained enforcement basis. ATF, if I didn't mention before, has plans underway, and I can't get into the particulars, into some of those hot spots that we're talking about, and we've broken those down further in what we call microgrids. That's hotspot areas, and then we break those down even further. And the commitment from all those entities, all those partners, were to continue to hit those spots hard, target individuals that are creating most of the havoc in those areas, and remove them from those particular hotspot microgrid areas. Those are some of the collaborations and the commitment that I received from those partners. Talking with the Ohio State Highway Patrol, they committed their air assets, and I appreciate that as well. HSI committed their air assets as well to assist us in our efforts to, again, bring some calm to our community. So I'm very appreciative of the partnerships that we had. The director has mentioned that, and I'm going to repeat some of the things the director mentioned because I think it bears repeating, of our partnerships and our collaborations and so forth, and the Mayor's Rise initiative. And because of that and the collaborations that we've had, we've been able to make, I think, some significant strides. Part of that is during the mass shooting, as mentioned before, because of our partnerships, our collaborations, and so forth, as the director already articulated, within 60 hours we had that person arrested. And I think that's significant from the hard work of the men and women of the Division of Police, and more specifically assigned to District 3 and the detectives assigned to District 3 and their hard work to identify the shooters, and then working in conjunction, in collaboration and partnership with the U.S. Marshal Service. We had that individual arrested and subsequently arrested 2 more people involved in that particular incident. And because of this RISE initiative, again, our partnership, as already explained by Director Howard, we arrested 12 juveniles very recently who were involved in very heinous crimes. As a matter of fact, one of the 12 individuals that had a warrant out for homicide that we were able to take off the street. One of the individuals that we arrested of the 12 had was recovering from what we believe are gunshot wounds, at least one gunshot wound that he didn't go to the hospital for. Well, we believe that he was involved in some shootings around the northeast area, more specifically in the North Collinwood area, that the council chair has have been talking about. We believe the arrest of those 12 juveniles will have a significant impact, we believe, in reducing some of the violence in the northeast section of our city, because we know they're involved in quite a bit of the homicides. Coupled with that same night when the 12 juveniles were arrested, our officers in the 5th District arrested 2 additional juveniles for being in a stolen Kia. And as everyone's aware at this table, our numbers relative to auto thefts are skyrocketed, especially for Kias and Hondas. These 2 individuals arrested was involved in a crash. They bailed from the vehicle and subsequently was arrested by our officers in the 5th District. So that particular night, we arrested upwards of 15 juveniles, ranging from age 12 to 17. 12 to 17, and that should shock you folks when you hear that. We're talking about 12-year-olds out there committing some very heinous acts. One of them was a 12-year-old girl, a baby, I would say, that's involved in that. So our officers are dedicated to turning the tide and making a difference. But I can tell you unequivocally, we can't do it alone. It requires dealing with the root causes. The Division of Police and my officers, us, we're dealing with the symptoms. We have to deal with the root causes, and that's why they'll be glad when Angela Woodson and Chief Pryor Jones gets here, so they can talk about some of those things that they're doing. Because again, we're talking about dealing with the root causes of some of these things. The investment includes all the things that the director talked about. Getting more analysts. It's important to repeat that. Getting more analysts with the administration, we're going to be able to hire 5 additional analysts, and that's important because those analysts will be assigned to the 5 neighborhood districts, coupled with the analysts that we have already assigned downtown, to be able to, again, pinpoint the areas that we have problems, and then the district commanders will be able to send those resources to those particular areas, as we call them, the microgrid areas, for focused patrols and enhanced patrols in those particular areas. Coupled with our partnerships with the Ohio State Highway Patrol, our aggressive traffic enforcement efforts. And I have to say that our officers in the districts, and as well as our traffic units, they've increased their traffic enforcement, sitting down with the mayor as well as Director Howard on a regular basis. One of the things I was stressed was to increase our capacity relative to traffic enforcement, and we've done that. We'll continue to do that. Hiring the 5 analysts will assist us. We have the Real-Time Crime Center, as everyone's aware of here. They react in real time, as stated, to provide information and intelligence to our officers on the ground in real time to make arrests. Been very successful. We have the expansion based on our technology of the shot spotter, gunshot detection technology in all 5 neighborhood districts. And I have to repeat again that it saved 6 lives we've known since the expansion into the 5 neighborhood districts. And those lives were saved because the officers received those particular alerts, responded to those areas, and were able to administer life-saving measures until EMS or fire arrived. And it's also important to note during those particular times that we did not receive calls for service from the community. Again, we did not receive calls from the community. If calls did come in, it was subsequent to the alert that we received from the shot spotter technology. So it's important to point that out. We have Fusus, which is a platform for cameras, the sharing that we have, that we encourage our business community, colleges, and so forth, and to partner with the City of Cleveland so we can get real-time data and camera footage to our Real-Time Crime Center to help our investigators while they're conducting their investigations and so forth. So we have a lot going on. The RISE initiative is just a part of what we've been doing. Again, it's important to note that our administration, BIB administration, is currently working with the police union to increase our capacity to get recruits in the front door, as well as retain the officers that we currently have. And from there, I can start into the PowerPoint presentation.
Okay. So, thank you, Chief, for your presentation. Before we get into the PowerPoint, I'm going to call upon the council president, who has to be at another important meeting. And at this
Let
time.
him do the presentation.
Let him do
and
it,
then I'll
okay,
after that.
okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Who, Director?
All right, I'll start off and, okay, we're going to start with, and I'll go through it relatively quick, and obviously you can read as well, but I'll go through it with the first slide. Number of sworn officers currently, and for the Division of Police is 1,231.
By the
And-
way, is this on our laptops? It is, okay, thank you. Okay, gotcha.
As you can see, it goes down to, obviously, from the chief down to patrol officers. And again, you can see those particular numbers yourselves. And again, but the total is 1,231
Okay,
that we're currently staffed with.
here we go.
We have currently 99 departures, and it's broken down by, we have 1 deceased, 1 deferred pension, 2 terminations. Service pensions are 43, and resignations are 52. Those are the total of 99. That's year to date. Now, one of the questions to ask that we present was the officers that are eligible to retire. And as you see, the numbers again, we have sworn members with 25 years of service is 255. That means that they're eligible to retire. So currently we have 255 of our members who are eligible to retire from the Division of Police. Doesn't mean that they're going to retire, it just means that they're eligible. Accordingly, you have to have a minimum of 25 years on and an age of 52 now to be eligible for your pension.
Chief, just a point of clarification. So the 1,231 officers, that's as of today?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
So currently, so we have 255 officers that's eligible to retire.
Okay.
And note, it's important to note as well that they don't have to tell us that they're going to retire. We have a drop program that a good percentage of our officers also go into at this point, and some delay and get in a little bit later. Again, they don't have to tell us any of these things. They don't have to tell us that they're going to retire. We kind of find out maybe a week or 2 before some folks retire, but those are the numbers that you currently see who are eligible for retirement.
Okay.
Now we're going to get into the applicants to become police officers. This is June 22 to present. As you can see the numbers up there again, you have a declined conditional offer, 13. A failed physical agility test, 20. No shows, 33. Passover by director selection is 98. Removal from the list, as you can see, history, medical, psych is 21. And withdrawn, that means they withdrew themselves from the process, 110 applicants.
Can you tell us what Passover by director means?
Sure, the director's here, because I know you can articulate, but I have to say it before I pass it over to the director, to the chair, is that we will not sacrifice quantity for quality. We have to make sure that we have the best quality individual, unqualified individuals for the Division of Police.
Yes, Chair. So once folks make it through the process for selection, there is review of social media content. Folks may be passed over for racist rhetoric, compromising communications, inappropriate relation to gender that show that type of information, significant drug use. We have a number of people consistently who apply who have smoked significant amounts of marijuana just recently before applying, who have taken LSD, used cocaine, used drugs that psychedelic drugs that are shown to resurface and issues later on. Also, references. If we're unable to reach references, and our personnel team goes through great initiatives to reach references, or looking at their employment history. If they've been terminated from every job that they've been on, or haven't had really bad performance reviews, that is a factor. And then there's the behavioral-based interviews. Those folks who don't meet a threshold score, which may be due to lack of impulse control, lack of open-mindedness, deception, And then you have all folks who have applied to other law enforcement jurisdictions that have failed polygraphs. So those are the types of questionable matters that will disqualify someone.
So then, and again, just a point of information, and we'll continue your presentation. So you had 295 apply. Is that what if I add up all those columns, it's 295?
That sounds accurate, Council
Okay.
Chair.
And so out of the 295, that's how you wound up with the 11 in the academy?
So there are other things, Chair. Folks who don't provide all the paperwork. And this is now civil
Okay.
service has a filtering,
Okay.
right? So folks who don't provide all of the documentation or don't provide a complete application, folks who don't provide all the information on their application, again, those who withdraw, those who are unable to pass medical, psychological assessments, fail the physical agility test.
Yes.
There are a number of reasons.
Okay. So, okay, keep going.
To the chair, Councilman, I sit through those processes as well as the director selection, and it is thoroughly vetted when we go through the process. It's thoroughly vetted, and we pass over those individuals for those very reasons. And again, we can't sacrifice quality for quantity. So I support the director and decisions that are made. And if I can have also some perspective of being around for 34 years, and I stated at this table, 34 years I've been on this job, and when I came on the job in 1989, a long time ago, when I took the test, it was approximately 5,000 people in Public Hall. They took the test, 5,000 people. And we don't have anything near that process. In order for us to seat a class, especially a large class, we have to have hundreds and hundreds of applicants that we need to vet in order to get down to a class of maybe 50 or 30 people. So when we have 200 and 300 people, and we get that class or vet that class down to 11 people, it's not surprising to me because we need so many individuals for various reasons are disqualified, and sometimes they pull themselves out the process. So having a applicant pool of 300 and getting down to 11 is not surprising to me based on all the things that the director just articulated.
So again, so of this on your next slide, well, let's go into your next slide. So of your CPD applicants, and again, you could provide it to us, out of each of those classes, what was the actual number that went into the academy? That's what I'd like to know.
Thank you, Chair. If I may, Chief,
Go ahead.
through the chair to council, each of these are broken down by class,
Yes.
right? If you see that, so it'll be like 26 started out in the process,
Yes.
and then it kind of goes through for awareness of what happens. 4 declined. This is class
Yes.
150. 4 declined conditional offer. 12 failed the physical agility test. 2 in the I guess went to the military. And I'll get clarification on that. The other
Yeah.
ones are no-shows for the interviews, no medical testing. There's the passovers. There's 7 who removed themselves from the process, or were removed from the process, 2 removed from medical,
Okay.
1 removed from psych, and then 27 withdrawal.
So then from 150 class to 154th, if you can tell us exactly how many came out at the end.
For all of the classes?
Yes,
Okay.
going back to 150th class.
Okay, we to the chair, to the council, to the chair, we can.
Yeah,
provide
well, you
information.
can get that to us.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
We
Keep going.
have, to the chair, we haven't seated the 154 yet. We're in the process of
Okay.
of vetting that.
Yes, point of information.
How many have been seated?
For what class, Councilman?
You got 150, 151, Part A, Part B for 152, so what's the
Okay.
total?
So,
That's
yeah,
actually been seated.
yeah, they were going to get that to us.
He doesn't know
Yeah.
rough preliminary?
Yeah.
He didn't have, go ahead.
You want those added up?
Yes, please.
I can, if you give me a
Well,
moment.
yeah, he could ask you a question. They're going to put that number together for us. So let's continue with the
Okay.
presentation then.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
As
Chairman.
soon as they get that number, we're going to stop.
Thank you, Mr.
and-
Chairman.
Good. Thank you. Go
To the
ahead.
chair, and that's the continuation of the classes that we're trying to put on. Again, we don't have the 154. We're trying to vet 154. We're trying to vet that class now, so we can get that started hopefully
But-
August.
But the 153rd class Which was the 11? 153rd A or B?
The 11 is, 152 is A and B combined.
So the group that graduated last Friday, what class, what group were they in?
That was
150.
A and B groups for 152.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
Or
to the chair. There were
152?
52.
Okay, so total of those, Councilman Jones, A and B, they wound up with 11 that were sworn in on Friday.
And the reason why that's, Councilman, to the chair, the reason why that is a 153 A and B is because that is a combination of third and fourth quarter of 2022.
Okay, thank you.
And that number, for the aggregate number of 151, I'm sorry, 150, 151, and 152 is 52. Class 153 are currently attending the academy.
Okay, thank you. Keep going, Chief. Thank you.
As you can see for this slide, we have currently in session 9 recruits, 153, 154. We're hoping to start August 14th of this year with 16 recruits. It's pending. We hope again to start that very shortly. And then again, we're very optimistic that we can get class 155 started
Okay.
this October.
So just a point of information. Under the direction of the Council President, and we had the discussion as it pertains to the budget, and so the Council President felt very strongly about making sure that we allocated the 180 within the general fund budget that we passed that went into effect April 1st. So out of your anticipated hiring this year, since January, will be under 25?
No, to the chair, that's not on 25. I don't have the numbers in front of me. My staff don't crunch the numbers, but we have more than 25 out of the 180 that you're talking about
Yeah.
budgeted. No, because we just graduated class at 11. And I guess I'll have to get the numbers for I don't have it right in front of me. I'll get the numbers
Yeah.
that will graduate this year.
Yeah, we're just trying to understand because, we felt strongly about making sure that we funded 180 new officers.
So if I can clarify just
Yeah.
a point. So we have the class 151, I'm sorry, 150 and 151.
Yes,
Those graduated in 2022.
okay.
The 150, in that number, I think we had 24. It's actually 25 for that August 5th graduation. So the total number is 53.
Yeah.
Then we have the 11 that graduated on July 28th. The length of the academy is 9 months.
Right. So
Okay.
we're looking at, for this year, how many you anticipate of actually hiring this year?
So we have the 11 that graduated. We have the 10 that are in the academy now.
So that's
There's
21.
16 pending appointment for class 154. And then the last academy that we are hoping to get in before the end of this year, that number is going to be significantly dependent on the negotiations
Okay.
that are currently ongoing.
Okay. Thank you. Any comment? Just a point of information. Okay, continue, Chief.
This is the staffing.
Oh, yes, Mr. President. Yes. Put your microphone on.
Point of clarification, I just want to make sure I clarify your answer. We budgeted for 180 police officers. Out of that 180, how many have we had so far that we've hired? And if I'm looking at this, it's 23. And then what are we anticipating hiring? Because I think what the chair is trying to get to is, out of the 180 that we budgeted, how many have we actually hired? And how many do we anticipate hiring? I know you're saying it's based upon negotiations, but I really think we want to get clarification on that if we could.
So
Go ahead, whoever can answer.
So I can tell you, President, through the chair, is that we have the 11 that graduated, right? And then the 10 that are currently in the academy, right? That gives, well, we appointed 13, so it's 23, what was appointed.
Okay.
Okay? And then in class 152, we lost 2. That brought us to the 11. So it's not, that number is 21. We have 16 pending appointment. Now, if those 16 go through and make it, then that'll give us a total number of hiring of 37. When we talk to the recruitment team, the number one issue, President through the chair, the number one issue with recruitment is the academy salary. With the changes that are being negotiated, and I don't want to run afoul of the law with these negotiations ongoing, with the changes in these negotiations, I believe that we'll see a significant change. From the officers that I spoke with at the National Homeland Security Conference, there was 2 jurisdictions that kind of already had done what we had done, and they saw their class size and being similar size to our department. Their first class after that was in the 50s, right? And they anticipate the next class after that to be larger. So it's difficult to say, what effect these negotiations are going to have, but I think that it is going to be a substantial increase adjusting the academy salary.
Thank you. So, Mr. Chair, just to close, Chair to Safety Director, just to make sure we reiterate, we have hired 36 out of the 180 that we budgeted for, but we anticipate, pending upon negotiations,
Yes.
if we increase the actual salary for the cadets in the upcoming class, we anticipate a larger class, which could be up to 50.
That's an approximate, yes.
An approximate.
Chair.
But the bottom
Chair,
line is, to
President
the
Chair.
chair's point, out of the 180 that we budgeted, we probably are not going to get there.
No, sir, no. I'm not going to try to sugarcoat it.
Okay.
No.
Just want to make sure that we clarify the chair's point.
We're not even.
We can move on from there.
Because
Thank you.
we're not, just wait, we're not even going to get close to that. There's the problem.
Well,
Okay, wait a minute. You had a point, Councilman?
Yeah, yes, Mr. Chairman. I mean, we've been sitting here talking about police recruitment for what, 5, 6 years now? And so the question that I want to ask, because I read the RISE initiative about this hired little jacket, who are they? And then we should bring them to the table to talk about recruitment. I mean, they're part of the hiring process?
That is the marketing firm that has been contracted to assist with recruitment through the Division of Police.
So have they done anything?
No, so we just signed the contract with them, right? And what's really important from our perspective is that knowing what the challenge is this academy salary is, right? With knowing what is being negotiated, once that is done, that is going to be key to that marketing plan. Being able to say something new, going out and from the feedback with the recruitment team, going out and marketing the same thing is not going to bear us the results. We have to go with something new. And in fact, if I could just add this, is that we've spoken with jurisdictions from Oahu, Hawaii. We spoke Kansas, Tennessee, Washington State, Maryland. They're all seeing the same thing. What's interesting is that the percentage in the hiring deficit is in line across all the divisions based on size. The ratio is the same. We're all suffering from the same issue.
Thank you. Continue.
Yeah, to the chair, and I have to add another note is that on national average relative to recruitment, approximately 90% of applicants are eliminated. 90%, and the average is about 10% is generally selected, and that's on average. It could be up, could be below that, but I just want, again, I need to add perspective to this, and also I need to add that we're doing everything we can from the Division of Police, Department of Public Safety, to hire qualified individuals to become law enforcement officers. Everything in our tool belts we're doing and will continue to do. I just don't want anyone to leave with the impression that the Division of Police is not doing everything, in the City of Cleveland, Department of Public Safety, the Mayor's Office is not doing everything we can to ensure that we hire the best qualified individuals becoming law enforcement professionals in the City of Cleveland. I would just want to make sure that's not lost in this conversation. We're doing everything we can. So these numbers are startling when you say you're budgeted for 180, but yet you only have 11 just graduated. You have 10 in the class now. We're hoping to get 16 coming up and so forth. Again, you have to have perspective. We're doing everything we can to reach the 180. Are we going to reach those numbers? No, absolutely not. As the director just said, we're not sugarcoating it. We're not going to reach 180 that we're budgeted for. It's just not going to happen. And that's for a variety of reasons. One of them is probably the pay in the academy, which we're working on improving. I think will make a difference and so forth. But it's an issue across the United States of America. Not an excuse, but that's an issue across the United States when hiring folks and becoming law enforcement professionals. I'll move on. And these particular slides go to your question about deployment and so forth, and we don't get into very specific deployments from the districts, but what we're going to do through these slides, provide numbers of where officers are currently assigned. And again, I'm not going to read every single one of the numbers up there, but again, you can see for yourselves. We start with my office, the chief's office, the chief of staff, and then the administrative operations, which is under Deputy Chief Danny Fay, and the numbers associated with that. Then we'll move on to Homeland Services, the Real-Time Crime Center, on down to the airport and the security here in City Hall and K-9, Special Investigations, which includes our domestic violence and sex crimes unit. Those numbers are evident. Homicide unit, crime scene unit, AIU, which is our accident investigation unit, a hit skip unit, and other support. That's, again, the numbers are there. Right across the special services, which are our task force and support, our gang and narcotics unit, as well as our SWAT and fugitive unit.
Okay, I just had a point of information here. I've been told that gang and narcotics, SWAT, and some of these specialized units are being deployed to ramp up and backfill the basic car plan. Is that correct?
To the chair and all the council members, I have a duty as a chief of police to make sure that I have sufficient amount of officers in my patrol section to answer the calls for service. It's the 911 calls as well as the non-emergency 1, 2, 3, 4 calls. And I'm going to stick to that responsibility because I take that seriously. Our officers in the patrol section are working tirelessly, like I stated in my opening remarks, day in and day out. Sometimes we're mandating them to stay over, and it's causing consternation. So in my efforts, yes, I commanded and my deputy chiefs to come up with a plan to make sure that we give relief, and I stress relief, to the officers in the patrol section. If that includes having officers in the domestic violence unit, sex crimes unit, and other units to go work 1 or 2 days in the patrol section, provide relief for those officers, then that's on me. Again, that is to make sure we have officers able to answer calls for service and also give relief to our officers in the patrol section who are working day in and day out tirelessly without sometimes any breaks, and we're trying to give some relief. So to answer your question, Chair, yes, some officers in those specialized units are being required to work those particular shifts. It's not on overtime, but if they want to work on overtime, they can voluntarily work on that. But officers assigned to the SWAT unit are not required to do that. Officers assigned to the homicide unit are not required to do that. But my expectations and my mandate to the deputy chiefs would make sure that we have officers working in that capacity to help our patrol section.
Can I just add to that just very
go ahead.
briefly? Is that I support the chief in the way that he's doing this. We use the phrase dynamic deployment of making sure that the city is covered. He has a responsibility, and I have this responsibility to support him to make sure that there are officers out there patrolling the streets to answer the citizens' calls. On top of that, there's also a responsibility to make sure that officers who are patrolling the street know that there is backup and support out there, that they are not in a dangerous situation where if they call for help, they have to know that there are officers on duty who are going to come and support them. The other thing is that when we talk about the districts, I don't want it to get lost that while officers are assigned a district, Chief Drummond uses the officers at the district to patrol the entire city. So sometimes folks may come from first district to third district, third district to first district, depending on what the officers are being called upon to respond to, so that they can support each other.
Okay. Well, the only reason I ask this is because it's about transparency. And if you're saying there's a gang and narcotics is 18 and there's task force and support, SWAT, and then people are being deployed, I want to make sure that all of us around the table are aware, and I understand that you have to deploy people. But like yesterday when I inquired in homicide, I was told there were 15 working in homicide. You have 21.
Correct. We don't want to exclude our supervisors, that their supervisors for 3 are included in that count. We can't just remove them from the count as well, so they're involved in the unit, they're part of the unit. So when we give you numbers, that include the supervisors as well.
So there's 21, not 15. Is that what you're telling me?
To the chair, that's correct.
Okay. Because it's about transparency here. That's all I'm asking for. Okay, keep going. Districts, field operations.
Yes, field operations, again, under the leadership of Sammy Morris. We have obviously the command, and then the NICE unit, which is Neighborhood Impact Community Engagement Unit, Environmental Crimes Task Force, as well as staff. That's a total of 22. The Bureau of Community Relations, 12. And again, I'm not going to read every single one.
Right.
And down to the traffic unit. And then we go to the districts. The numbers there, these are sworn members of the Division of Police. That's supervisors down. That's 130 for D1, 150 D2, 179 D3. D3's number a little bit higher because they have the downtown services unit, so they get a little bit more officers because of that. Then you have District 4, which is the busiest districts for call volume, 167, and then 135 for D5.
So, as well, on your field operations column, are those officers being deployed as well to backfill the basic car plan?
To the chair, to the council member, that is correct.
Okay.
As again, I stated and mandated by
Okay.
the deputy chief that everyone has to have the ability to assist in the patrol section.
Okay. Keep going.
Next, we have crime statistics, specifically the homicides for the districts, and we have it compared to last year, 2022 to 2023 across the board. And again, I'm not going to read those numbers. You can read those for yourselves.
And that's as of to date?
To the chair, that's correct.
Yes, okay, thank you. Keep going.
And then we have robberies, and again, these particular slides going to the robberies, again, in comparison to last year and across the districts.
Define a robbery for the viewing public.
Robbery kind of falls into 2 categories. You have aggravated robberies. That's when a weapon or dangerous ordinance is used to commit that particular crime. It could be a gun, it could be a hammer, it could be a baseball bat. It's a weapon. If someone uses that, then that's considered an aggravated robbery. Then we have robbery, which could be a strong arm. You know, someone could come up and punch someone in the face and take their property. That would be considered a robbery. There's not necessarily a dangerous ordinance or weapon involved in it, but that would turn out to be a robbery. That's to categorize those 2 particular. There are other nuances that I'm not getting into, but those are robberies.
Okay, thank you, Chief. But point of question, point of information. Okay, go on, keep going.
And also, and the director, just going to make sure I want to point this out. For example, someone shoplifted maybe $10 worth of items, and someone tries to stop them, run past them. That goes from a petty theft to a robbery.
Yes, okay, thank you. Okay.
We have false assault, and I can define that as well. That's someone that's physically harming someone with, again, a dangerous weapon or a deadly ordinance. And again, that could be from a gun to a bat to a hammer to those type of objects. And also, you can actually be charged with false assault. For example, if you punch someone in the face and you break a bone because of the seriousness of the injury, that can be categorized as a false assault without a dangerous weapon.
That includes if you're being shot, correct?
That's correct, yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Or shot at, and not
Okay.
necessarily that could be attempted or commit.
Thank you.
Yep. Next are the statistics for burglary, and again, I'm not going to read them.
So wait a minute, just a moment. If you go back to felonious assaults. So we are halfway through the year, and your light blue column is to date, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So, yeah, that's a great concern. Great concern right there. Okay, keep going.
Next, we have our burglaries. That's burglaries that include breaking into someone's home. Also, it can be broken down to aggravated burglaries, and aggravated burglaries could be when someone breaks into someone's home to cause harm. Not necessarily to actually steal. They can just break in
Yeah.
because they want to assault someone. That would be considered
Okay.
aggravated burglary. And again, those numbers are you can see for yourselves.
Okay. Grand theft auto.
Yeah, as you see, these are the numbers relative to the grand theft motor vehicles from District 1 through District 5. The epicenter of it are Districts 2 and District 3, but they're across the board in all 5 neighborhood districts, and the vast majority of those vehicles are Kias and Hyundais.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, point of clarity?
Yeah, just a question, just some clarification. So the 2022 figure that you're giving us in all these stats, that's for the entire 2022 year, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
To Chair, let me double check to make sure that's versus at the same period.
Okay.
I want to double check to make sure I'm giving you
Thank you.
accurate
That's
information.
critical. Councilman, point of question?
Yes, thanks, Chair. That was my exact question. Are these 2023 stats projected, or is that just so year-to-date?
To the Chair, Councilman, I'll get those numbers to make sure we're clear.
Yes.
Versus I want to see if it's comparison to the same period. So let me double check
Period to
that and give you,
period.
yes, period to period,
Thank you.
double check.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So,
To the Chair,
tell
to the
us
Councilman, it's year-to-date comparison.
for,
Yes.
for 2022 is year to date.
To
Okay.
council members, yes, that's
Okay.
correct. Year-to-date for 2022, those are the numbers for last year, year-to-date, and then currently year-to-date for 2023.
Okay, so on grand theft auto, obviously the figures speak for themselves. Do you have, how many officers do you have working auto theft?
To the Chair, to the Councilman, we do not have an auto theft unit. The
Anymore.
detectives in each of the 5 neighborhood districts are
Okay.
responsible for that.
Because at one time we did have an auto theft unit.
To the Chair, to the Councilman, that's correct.
Okay, so it's up to who in the districts to be working auto theft? I mean, is there who's assigned auto theft?
To the Chair, that's the responsibility of the commander in the detective units. Each district, as you're aware, has a detective unit as well as a vice unit.
Okay.
And those particular the detectives are assigned to those
Thank-
crimes.
Thank you.
Chair, Council,
Yes.
through the chair, it's been years since there was an auto theft unit. I don't, not during my time in the city.
Yes, it's been, to the Chair, that's been years. Again, I don't know exactly, but it's been years.
Okay, thank you. Keep going.
Next, these are some of our partner agencies we've been talking about. Again, you have the County Prosecutor's Office, the Sheriff's Department, RTA, Adult Parole Authority. They're also in that meeting that I talked about. State Patrol, Ohio Investigative Unit, which is just tremendous partners. They're here just about every weekend working with our officers in all the districts, including here in downtown Cleveland. ATF, DEA, FBI, HSI, IRS, U.S. Marshals, U.S. Attorney's Office, they're all our partners. And CMHA as well. We have an initiative going now in partnership with both RTA as well as CMHA for curfew enforcement.
Thank you.
And we talked about ShotSpotter, one of our technologies that we had expanded to all 5 neighborhood police districts this year. We expanded to 13 square miles. We completed that in the second quarter of this year. As the director stated, in May we completed that. As you can see, we had from January to date, January to June 2023, 2,350 total alerts. 87% of alerts not called in by the public. Again, 87% of the alerts are not called in by the general public. 1,298 community canvas events. Basically what that means is when we receive an alert, the officers respond to that alert and they actually engage with the community. It means get out their cars, they're looking for shell casings, and they're also going up, knocking on doors and engaging with the community, leaving their information so the community can reach back out in case they see something, hear something. 25 guns were recovered and 23 arrested at the time of shootings. So again, I think this, I think this particular technology, I think for me, and some may disagree, I think it's worth its weight when we see the amount of lives saved just in 2023, which is 6 individuals.
Well, just on that point, getting a point of information, as we indicated at the table, we're going to revisit ShotSpotter at some point because there were concerns of members around the table as it pertains to the dollar amount and the effectiveness of it. So again, I think what's critical is that the administration, you folks, keep as accurate figures and statistics as possible, because like critical areas of the 5th District were not included in the ShotSpotter.
To the chair, we as we developed a plan, we looked where we were going to expand ShotSpotter. We take into consideration data. We're data-driven. It's not based on what we think or feel is the best particular place to put this technology. It's based on data. And the data is what drive our deployment of our resources and technology. And based on the data, ShotSpotter expanded into all the 5 neighborhood police districts.
Okay. Anything else, Chief, under your
That's it for the presentation at this time.
So, okay. So, before I call upon my colleagues, and Mr. President, are you still? Yes. Okay. You're fine still for a moment? I'm going to ask Sonia Pryor-Jones to come to the table, and Angela Woodson to come to the table as well, because as we indicated initially, come on up, ladies. Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate it. There's been growing concerns within the body with regard, and we obviously on this handout here, you can see the initiatives that we have, council has supported and funded. But there's this growing question among us and within our residents that we've allocated substantial amount of money for violence prevention, violence initiatives, and yet the violence continues to grow in our neighborhoods. And specifically, as we discussed at this table in the past, the focus of the initiative has basically been around the rec centers. And yet, I'm looking at police reports, I'm looking at data that our staff has compiled. And do we have some incidents around some of our rec centers now and then? Yes, we do. We know that for a fact. But the majority of the violence that we're experiencing is not in the rec centers, it's in the streets. So we've allocated millions for violence prevention programs, and we don't see the results of it. Now, I believe some of those programs are going to take time. I'm very much aware of that. But our citizens are asking, we're funding these programs, and yet we do not see any drop-off in the listen up, everybody, in the juvenile violence that we're experiencing in the city. And what I'm trying to understand, Chief Jones, how is your interaction with CPD? Because we're hearing at the table, they're data-driven, they're looking, they're crunching their numbers, but yet the violence is not in the rec centers. It's not inside the rec centers. It's in the streets. So I'm just trying to understand what data you're looking at, how you're deploying your people, your initiatives, your programs, and then I'm going to ask again for Ms. Woodson. At present, according to the budget we passed, and we looked at the budget, you have 6 violence interrupters, correct? Okay. talking to people in the street, they're telling me you need at least 2 violence interrupters per ward, possibly 4 per ward. If you're really going to engage, be out there in the streets doing the preventive maintenance, interacting with whether it be young people or whoever, gaining intelligence, touching base, visiting homes, but 6 just cannot do it. So first I'm going to start with Sonia Pryor-Jones, Chief, and I appreciate you being here. Would you care to comment? Yeah. Oh, yes.
Just
Yeah.
a point of information to the chair. Can we, and I don't know
Yeah,
if
go ahead.
this mic is working, but one of the things I really think we need to disaggregate, putting this out there, that $145 million is going to violence prevention, when that is not the case.
No, it's safety. It's right here.
Okay,
Yeah.
safety, but I think there
Yeah.
needs to be an
Yeah.
alignment to actually
Yeah.
break this down where we have
Yeah.
various pots of money for various different things.
Okay.
Because again, there may be some confusion. So
Yeah,
I would ask that we actually
it's
talk
a-
about that, because
yeah.
a lot of this stuff
Okay.
is actually reactionary and it's not preventative.
It's-
And we actually really need to
Okay.
actually focus on that, of how our investments, when our investments are going after the fact, after the damage is done.
Okay.
Rape crisis and domestic violence,
Yeah.
the police headquarters, the overwhelming majority of our funds are going
Yeah.
to things that happen after the fact.
So we have on the top, Cleveland City Council investments in public safety. These are the things that we have supported. So we put everything together so everybody could see firsthand what we have invested, and either at the request of the administration or what we've invested. So, Chief Jones.
Chair, if I may.
Oh, yes.
Chief German, we don't have a copy of that,
Okay, we're going to
If it
get
would be
you one
helpful.
right here.
if we had on the side.
And we'll give you, here, right here.
I think,
Actually, none of us have it
Okay.
in the administration, so it'd
Okay.
be great for
Okay.
Angela and I to also receive a copy.
Go ahead.
So to the chair, to council, thank you. We'll take a look at this.
Okay.
Oh, we'll share that for now, it looks like.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that we do frame this with some clear definitions, right? And so I've shared previously, when we think about prevention work, we do have to think about it as a full pathway.
Okay.
And so the work that we're doing in our recreation centers is very early stage prevention. And so the mayor speaks of it as stopping the violence before it ever starts. And so it's also population level work. And so the work in the recreation centers is focused primarily out of the Mayor's Office of Prevention, Intervention, Opportunity in 2 key areas. One, we have our social support specialists. For the first time, we have full-time staff on that unit. We're very excited about that, and they do a lot of good work with residents on a daily basis. They're in the recreation centers where they're housed easily for people to walk in and access them, but they are also helping in the community at some of the settlement houses, as well as in some of our schools. And so they really try to show up where people are to support them in their need. These social support specialists are navigators. They help people with issues of poverty, with issues of housing, with issues of employment, and in some cases, they also provide actual counseling for those who are credentialed to do so. So again, these are the people that they're supporting that don't end up in the news in the middle of a crime. These are people that they're supporting at the population level to ensure that they're not ending up in a situation of harm's way for themselves or for other community members. The other work that we do is the expanded programs. And so we know that young people need opportunities to be engaged. We can only provide, our programs and spaces primarily where the city has jurisdiction. Those are in our neighborhood resource and recreation centers. And so we've added, beyond the gym and swim traditional rec programs, expanded programs, which includes things like STEM, robotics, esports, very popular this year, entrepreneurship, so things that are engaging young people in a wide variety of interest areas that they like and they have spoken up about. We are in the midst of going to visit each neighborhood resource and recreation center with council members, so we know for sure that you know who your support specialist is, and you can see for yourself some of the programming that's taking place. So that's one piece of our work. It is at the population level. level. This summer alone, we were able to provide 28 unique programs, over 60 sessions across all of the centers. In addition to that, the investment from the city also includes employment. We know for sure that many of our young people need money to support themselves, to support their families. We're in a city where poverty for children is 48 to 50%. And so having dollars in pockets is really important. And so the city, the county, and others have invested in ensuring well over 1,000 young people in the city of Cleveland only have been in jobs of employment. Over 250 of those jobs are actually funded by city dollars and paying young people over the minimum wage of $13.50. And they are employed for 6 weeks. They're gaining income. They're also learning life skills for the long term. And so those are some of the ways we're doing the investment work within the recreation centers and through city investment. In addition to that, our partners are doing the work. This summer, Mayor Bibb, the administration, council members, I actually walked the neighborhood with Councilwoman Gray and found out she's very popular in her ward. We went out and we talked to people about the programming available in our neighborhood resource and recreation centers, as well as CMSD Summer Learning Experience, where they supported over 4,000 kids this summer, pre-K through 8th grade. We also have our partners over at Starting Point who do work around summer and after school time. And in their programs across the city, they supported another roughly a little less than 30 programs and over 1,000 Cleveland students. And those programs that they operate are actually funded by county dollars. And so there is work happening in our recreation centers as well as in the broader community to engage youth throughout the course of the summer.
But how are you engaged with safety, with the police department? That's what I'm not clear on.
So can you be more specific with your question? I'm not sure.
Well,
what
obviously,
engagement
the
you want to talk
police and through their intelligence, they know we're having problems in the streets. They know where we're having playgrounds that are out of control or where kids cannot go to playgrounds because of what's taking place there. So what I'm trying to understand is how do you interact with the Division of Police, the Department of Public Safety, so we target all of our resources collectively together where we're having, because, you know, I guess I'm stepping back a moment. I'm glad that I don't have a problem in my rec center. I'm glad I don't have a problem there. But I got a problem in the street. And I'm trying to figure out, now I understand preventive maintenance, we're trying to intercept kids that could be possibly at risk. But I'm dealing with the after the fact. So how do we, with the violence initiatives that we're undertaking, how are we interacting with the Department of Public Safety and CPD to really try to identify and target the individuals who are out there? Because as the chief indicated, we're dealing with from 12, the bulk of these young people were between 12 and 17 years old in the street.
So to the chair, some of the ways in which we interact with public safety, the mayor is taking an all-of-government approach. And so the entire team that's at this table, along with some others, we share data, we share information, and where we have oversight in terms of our individual departments, where they are able to use that data to support the way that we might deploy or administer. And so one example, and it may seem small, but I think an important one, when we decided where we would canvass this summer to make sure that we were getting the word out about programming that was available in the centers and at CMSD, we focused in on hotspot areas. And so we also have all been collectively involved in the mayor's neighborhood safety walks, again, focusing in on hotspot areas of the city.
So the hotspot you got was from CPD, the director?
And so all of that information is shared across our whole team, our whole government approach. I do think it's important to underscore something to the chair, which I try to do each time that I define the roles and the audience, and that is the PIO office does not do interrupter work, right? And so we don't have violence interrupters that go out in community and interrupt things as they're happening or squashing beefs, if you will, in a very direct way. Now, our social support specialists do lend support to the audience and the target community members that Director Wilson's office works with. We work together in that way. We share training, but we do not do interrupter work in a traditional sense.
Thank you. Director Woodson. As it's been indicated, your folks are in the street doing work, and one of your folks was at the night out against crime last night that I attended in the 5th District. But my own observation is that we have to do far more intelligence. We have to do far more gathering of who's doing what and why they're doing it. And again, I keep coming back to this, my own opinion, that 6 people can't do it for the entire city. And I'm engaging, I'm talking to people as I did last night, and I'm hearing again this figure that you need at least 2 per ward. You need possibly 4 per ward that can work with the council members, the administration, neighborhood groups, and to get out there and really have the boots in the ground out there, out in the neighborhoods, to identify what's going on, who's doing what, why is it happening, et cetera. So would you care to comment?
Sure. To the chair and to the body.
Pull your mic up closer,
Sure.
Chief.
Can you hear me now?
Director, thank you.
Okay. To the chair and to the body, yes, we do have 6 violence interrupters, and these people work tirelessly. We were just all talking just yesterday upon doing activities like Night Out on Crime. We have been out probably every weekend since summer has taken part, trying to do as much as we can to keep young people not just off the streets loitering, but just engaging with people who kind of drawing them into some negative activities. One prime example, my West Side interrupters, one of them in particular that's also assigned to the downtown area, was able, which the stories that don't get told, was they stopped young people, 5 young people from ages 13 to 15 years old who were trying to carjack a Kia. They were in a parking lot of a club. It was after 12 midnight, so they were past the curfew. Luckily, we were able to work with the police district, bring the parents, and kind of just have a sit down with all of them. Kids were scared that we reached their parents. The interrupters actually got them involved in some activities and have actually been starting to mentor these young people, because out of the 5, 4 of them never have had a case, had never been picked up for any trouble whatsoever. So those kind of stories don't get told. I guess they're not sexy enough because we're kind of doing the right thing. But we do work very closely with our police district, our commanders, our community relations specialists within the different districts, trying to share information and also trying to work to figure out common ground of what can we do. We're not trying to arrest every young person if we can prevent it. My team does an adamant job this summer. We did a 3-on-3 as a pilot in the rec centers, because we realize, as we've heard at this table, our young people are not going into the rec centers. So we actually took our DYS kids. These are kids that are sentenced to the Ohio juvenile detention facilities. And we engaged these kids with some rec kids. They made new friends. We attracted over 200 plus individuals from 12 to 17. It was during the day. It was from, we started at 2 o'clock and went till 5 p.m. And rotated both east and west. And a lot of our young people walked away with being introduced, who were out here hanging out, were introduced to new friendships, new concepts, trying to think a little differently. Of course, we did that with a shoestring budget of probably I think they told me $3,000 is what we had total to do that both east and west. So it doesn't matter for our department with the money as much as it matters, because we know it takes money. But I'm sharing that to say that's the commitment of the department, the 6 of us. Again, our officers did show up to 3-on-3 and engage with the young people, which meant a lot. So it also meant that they don't have to look at them as always, they're going to put handcuffs on people, that
Right.
they're actually people that are concerned and was happy to see them playing basketball, picking up a basketball with them and talking to them. So we're doing what we can, just with the 6 and myself in the department.
But let me just say this, and it is about transparency at the table here today, because we know we got a major problem in the city. And this is my, it isn't about arresting, it's about prevention. I think that's what we're all talking about. How do we stop things? How do we stop this, the conflict in the neighborhoods, the conflict between different groups of young people, the turf things, everything we're dealing with. But Angie, and I'm going to call Angie because I've known you a long time. 6 people, got 17 wards.
That's correct.
6 people can't do it.
We're trying to do what we can do with the resources we have.
And I'm saying this to my colleagues as we discuss the future budget, and I know the council president and I have talked about this. If we're going to really attempt to focus on abatement, on prevention, on everything, then we have to have a better approach. 6 are not going to do it for the entire city of Cleveland. You could use 6 in the 5th district.
Okay.
And I bet you could use 6 in the 4th district as well, if not more.
But to the chair and to this body also, we have partners that help us. And I know we brought several groups early on to this table to talk to you and share with you about the work that they do. And a lot of them that you heard from don't get any resources to do this work. Okay. So again, it's kind of trying to figure out a common denominator of how do we empower them more. Also working with the fact of the data you just saw, where some of the problems are. How do we loop them in to help us more in those areas where we have a lot of the heightened issues?
Okay. Okay. At this point, I'm going to open it up for questions, and I know there's a lot of things that are revolving here, and we're going to get into in a moment. But, Council President, I appreciate you being here. I know you and I have been talking a great deal about the issues that you're hearing from all of our colleagues. So, again, I appreciate it. I know you had some other things to be at, but you changed your schedule to be here, and I appreciate it.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Chair, for really taking the leadership and pulling this committee together. I know that a lot of the colleagues have been wanting to do this for some time.
Right.
And I also want to thank the administration for making themselves available for being here today. Right. I've had the privilege and honor of working with a lot of the people across the table from me in a professional capacity. And I know that all of the men and women in law enforcement, as well as the men and women that are working in prevention, intervention, and all of the other things in our community are really working hard.
May I interrupt you just for a moment?
Yes,
I want to
please.
make sure that we said earlier 10 minutes for each person.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
And I just want to just acknowledge that. But I have to be honest, and I hope that we could be honest with each other at the table today, because the chair and I have been talking a lot about this. The anger and the frustration in our community is palpable. It is the most frustrated that I've seen officers. I get calls and texts every single day from officers that are overwhelmed, and I'm getting concerned because they're even at the point that they're at a breaking point and saying that, hey, morale is down. We are very frustrated. We are under staffed, and they quite frankly are retiring a lot of good officers that really have a lot of experience and a lot of institutional knowledge, and that is beginning to concern me. That's the first thing I want to say. The other thing I want to say is that I think the chair has been very precise in what we want to accomplish with this hearing is that we felt that we have done everything the administration has asked us to do in order to bring crime and deal with crime in an all of Cleveland approach, from a prevention intervention strategy to a reentry strategy to a law enforcement strategy. When we add up the amount of money that we put into a lot of equipment, a lot of other things, it still isn't getting the results. I want to just say this because I want to be careful how I choose my words, because I believe in accountability. I believe that we need to have the reforms that we have in this city. But I have to ask the question, when and how do we take the gloves off? or are we going to be handcuffed, no pun intended, by all of these reforms that we're doing? And maybe we need to ask ourselves the question, is the reforms for issue 24, even though I know it hasn't heard a case yet, and the consent decree helping our city be safer? That's a question that we all have to be honest and ask ourselves, because the intent for those was to build better relationships between the community and law enforcement so that we can have better outcomes. And right now, we are having the exact opposite. So I hope that we could really deal with that and make sure that we have a way to go with that. But I do have a couple of questions, Chair, and I will try to honor your point. And if I could ask the committee, just be very brief with your answers, because I'm going to give a couple of rapid-fire questions.
Go
okay?
ahead, Mr. President.
Number one, what tools are we using around AI? Most crime that is happening on these right here. What tools are we using? Because more bodies that just go chase dope boys on the corner is not going to get it anymore. Most of the crime that we're dealing with are planned and impulsive and strategized around these tools. Do we have anything dealing with this? AI, I know we're going to say Fusion Center, but I caution all of us, the public doesn't care right now. The public feels that all of us, not just you, because I don't come to the table pointing fingers. The public feels that everybody, all these systems, not even just the people at this table, the public feels that the system is failing, and they're frustrated. So I'll start off with that question, and then I got a couple more, Mr. Chair, and then I'll go from there.
Thank you.
To the chair, Councilman Griffin, good question relative to AI. We are using every tool at our disposal that we can legally to help us with our abilities to, again, tap down all the violence that's taking place in our community. We have, obviously, there's social media platforms. Obviously, you mentioned the phone, other technologies that we try to use to our advantage, again, operating within the confines of the Constitution and our abilities. So to answer your question, we utilize all of the tools available, including AI, again, within the Constitutional, to help us tap down all the violence and help us do our jobs better.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Second thing, and I want to do a deep dive with that, but Chief, we'll talk offline. The second thing that I want to ask is, where's the helicopter? And I know that, sorry, who's the gentleman from, Mr. Chair, from the governor's office?
Stuver.
Ben Suber.
Yes.
Chief Suber, okay.
Chief of Staff.
Chief of Staff, where is the helicopter? We spent a significant amount of money getting the helicopter upgraded, and we were supposed to be assured, and I know that in the last DN that we seen, the divisional notices, that 2 of the helicopter pilots have retired. Is the helicopter up in the air, and how is the helicopter being deployed?
Director, Chief.
To the chair, to Councilman Blaine Griffin, our helicopters are currently not in the air. They will be in the air shortly. There is a maintenance that the helicopters are going through right now. We have not sent the helicopters out to be refurbished, which is what City Council did approve through legislation. That has not taken place yet. As you're aware at this table, the company that we're contracted with went into bankruptcy. They're currently out, and they're the only company that's able to do the repairs that we need or the refurbishing. So we're in the process of trying to get that contract out so we can get the helicopters in to be refurbished. And what I mean by that is they'll pretty much take it all the way down to the bones, put new equipment on it. And so when the helicopters do come back to us, they're pretty much brand new helicopters. Now we have to do that one at a time. But I suspect and I hope that the helicopter will be flying tomorrow. They're not flying today as we speak, but one will be up in the air tomorrow. But I also want to answer your question. I know you have several, and I'm going to be brief. We do utilize our partnerships with the Highway Patrol. They have their assets, what they graciously said that we can utilize and so forth. And also I mentioned before about HSI. They also committed to their air assets. It's just a matter of us coordinating with them.
And Mr. Chair, I want to make sure that I rapid fire because I know you got
Because
10
just
questions.
based on, and again,
Yeah.
not to take away from your time, we passed the legislation
Right.
in March of 22.
Of 22.
helicopter.
That's what I was going to say. So we passed this last year, March of 22. So I want to make sure that the public knows that, because part of this is, once again, we've made investments, we've done what the administration has asked us, but this is the kind of transparency that we need. Okay?
And President, through the chair, if I may, just want to, yes, it was passed in 2022. As Chief said, the company went into bankruptcy. We reviewed with the law. We've got the thumbs up to move forward with it, and that is, it's in motion. It's in motion.
And Chief and Director, let me say this. I apologize because all of you guys, we all have been professional relationships for a long time. The public is looking for answers right now. The public is begging us and telling us they want to understand how we're going to deal with this issue. So please excuse my passion, please excuse me probing, but this is important. And I think that if nothing else, we need to make sure that we restore confidence in the public, that we are serious about dealing with this issue in the city. Next thing is, Mr. Chair, is the chase policy. Can we get on record formally, why do we keep hearing that nobody's allowed to chase? And can we get formal clarity on why the supervisors are maybe not allowing chases, or can we understand how the chase policy works? Because if I hear one more time that they're not allowed to chase, which is why this is going unchecked, then I'm going to lose it. I just need us to make sure we clarify.
Director and Chief and I had the dirt bike ATV guys come through my ward on Sunday night after 8 o'clock. So anyone care to comment?
To the chair, to the councilman, that we have a pursuit policy. I want to make sure that's clear at this table and to the listening audience. We have a pursuit policy. It's a very strict pursuit policy. We have strict guidelines relative to that, but if someone's calling you and indicating that we do not have a pursuit policy, they're incorrect. That's false. We have a pursuit policy, it's just very strict. We evaluate the pursuits to make sure they're in compliance with our policies. If we have information that a pursuit is called off based on meeting the criteria, then we'll sit down with those particular supervisors and ask their thought process and why they would call off a pursuit. You have to take all kind of things into consideration during pursuits, as you're aware. Time of day, the vehicle, the individuals that's driving the vehicle, and so forth. For an example, if our officers are pursuing a vehicle wanted for aggravated robbery, let's say a carjacking, but yet it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and they're driving south or northbound on West 25th through the Tremont area, or at dinner time, my expectation with all the people that are there, to the chair of the council members, is that particular supervisor, and not only the supervisors, but also the patrol officers, really take all of that in consideration before plowing through some of those areas at the speeds that some of these vehicles are traveling and taking out several innocent people. So all those things have to be taken into consideration. They're extremely dangerous. We know that. The officers are aware of that as well. They're inherently dangerous. But again, to stress, we do have a pursuit policy, a very strict one, but we do.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I just want to make sure if we could see if we might need to revisit that. I've always been one to use caution with pursuit policies. I had the privilege of sitting for years on a committee with Commander Drummond, which I understand why there has to be some protocols around pursuit, but I think the fact that we continue to hear officers say that they're being under assault, under siege, and not able to pursue needs to be clarified and needs to be really put forth, because we need to get some of these guys off of the street. And I do want this public to be safe, but I do want to make sure we do that. I know we got I want to honor the chair's time, and if I need to follow up. Okay, the other thing is we're losing officers at an astronomical rate. I know that we got the longevity payments, and always March and April and May are always the months that have the highest amount of resignations and retirements. But have we done exit interviews or surveys with all of the officers that have left in order to understand why are they leaving and what can entice officers to stay and retain officers?
Director, Chief.
To the chair, the councilman Blaine Griffin, yes, that's part of the process when officers leave, especially when they resign. We have exit interviews and review those. I actually reviewed some of the last ones with my deputy chiefs to see what we can do, so what they're saying, and what we can do to change things to increase their will to stay. And not all of it involve finances. Some it's finances. It's a variety of reasons why individuals choose to leave the division of police. Again, we take all of that in consideration. We also have currently out now, we have a survey that's out now, to your point, where we have upwards of, I believe, 700, I may be off, over 700 officers that has taken part in that, and that is unprecedented to the chair, the councilman, to have that many officers involved in that. We have 1,200, over 1,200. We have over 700 that's participating. That's what we're hoping to get more answers and then respond to those particular concerns of the officers, both in the survey and also in the exit interviews.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, if we
Okay,
could, can
wrap
we
it
get a follow-up of that survey and make sure that we get
Okay.
that through email?
Thank you.
President, if I may,
That's
just
yes, go
to
ahead.
touch on that very quickly, is that the recruitment team does surveys, exit interviews as well. Not all officers sit down and do the exit interviews, but the RISE initiative is to address some of those concerns that the officers have raised in their exit surveys, and we're hoping that the negotiations and the execution of the RISE initiative answer some of these questions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead,
just two
Mr.
more
President.
things, and then
Go
I'll
ahead.
close.
Go ahead.
The next thing that I want to make sure that I ask is about, and this is really to Chief Pryor Jones and maybe Director Woodson, as well as the law enforcement officials here. If I was to ask who are the 1,000 bad actors in the city of Cleveland right now, would we know who they are? And would we know how we can engage them and embrace them and then deal with them either in a productive way or a law enforcement?
Whoever can answer that.
To the chair, to the council member, we may not be able to give you an answer for 1,000, but I think you bring a very valid point up by saying that. What we know is that a small amount of individuals are responsible for a large amount of the violence, and that's why when you have 360 or 70,000 people in the city of Cleveland, we know that there's a small amount of actors that's creating the issues. Do we know who some of them are? Absolutely, and that's why we're very strategic in how we go after those individuals. We identify them, and then we go after them. Some of these individuals need to be off our streets. There's no question about it. They're just really bad actors and commit some very heinous crimes, and our objective is to remove them from the community, and then others can deal with the social aspect of it. But the immediate response for us is to remove those really dangerous actors from the community. The other ones, I think, that's the partnerships that we're talking about with Chief Pryor Jones, Angela Wilson down there, is to engage individuals before they get too far down the road, and we're dealing with them in a more criminal basis. And that's the relationship that we're talking about, the partnership, so they can deal with that. So again, my people, the Division of Police, and my officers are not dealing with them, and we're actually removing them from the street. Because when they come to me, I want them removed from the street based on the type of
Mr. Chair, if I could make
involved
a suggestion, I really think that we should look at a focused deterrence model between, as you mentioned, law enforcement and also Chief Pryor Jones to convene street outreach workers, recreation center workers, schools, security personnel, as well as the police department, frontline officers, to really try to get an idea, and looking at social media to really try to identify who are some of the bad actors and really start to engage them and really try to find ways to try to divert them, but at the same time make it clear that we are going to be taking the gloves off if any of this stuff continues to happen. We need to be clear and resolute, and we need to be very direct, because I think we spend too much time trying to lecture the good kids and not enough time really trying to go to the real cause of some of the guys causing the problem. The other thing that I want to move to, because I want to acknowledge the chair's time, is to the parole and post-release control and chief of staff. How can we get the parole board more involved, because the parole board and post-release police control, a lot of these folks are bad actors that are repeat offenders. How can we ramp up and get more visits and make sure that we have more unannounced visits with some of these bad actors that are on PRC and also under the monitoring of the parole board?
Chief, could you identify yourself, because some other colleagues have come in
Sure,
since you were,
sure.
introduce yourself.
To the chair, to the councilman. That is not a section that I oversee.
Give us your name.
Ben Suver, Chief of Staff, the Ohio Department of Public Safety. That is not a section of the Department of Public Safety. However, the governor has made clear to those individuals and that leadership.
Good afternoon. This is Dan DeRose with 19 News. If you were watching this stream on our Facebook or other digital properties, we're going to pull this down, but you can continue watching at cleveland19.com. If you click into the story on cleveland19.com about the City Council Safety Committee, the stream will continue there, but for Facebook viewers and viewers on our digital apps, you'll have to switch over to WOIO.com or cleveland19.com.
Pass that back.
Sure. Thank you.
To the chair, Councilman Griffin, that's another really good question.